Welcome back to our Smartbuild implementation video series. This video here we will be going through setting up colors. This is the third category in the setup wizard. So to get to the setup wizard here, you go to settings, setup wizard, and then we'll be in the colors tab. So a couple different things to notice. I have some shingles in this job here, ag panel siding, and even stone. And then I have a white trim. So several different colors, different things going on here, and we'll talk about each part, finishing up with setting up a shingle color and maybe even a stone color. So primarily we want to focus on the metal, which is what most people are working on here. So with the metal colors, it ties back into what we just talked about in the previous video with colors and how they work with product systems. So if we jump into this colors tab here, and if you have our generic database again, it should look very similar to what you're seeing here. And if not, you can reach out to our support team and say, hey, I just need a full colors file. I'd like to start fresh with all the colors and maybe get rid of some that you don't need or whatever that may be. But yeah, we have several preset colors in here, different manufacturers colors, whether it's vinyl, asphalt shingles, different brands. So we have all these preset in here set up for you just to save you that time. So again, if you don't have any of these colors here, you can reach out to support and say, hey, I need the colors file. And then it's as simple as coming into here, we email you the file and you can click upload, choose this file, and upload the file back into Smartbuild. So it's really easy if we could just send you this file if you don't have all these. But yeah, we'll just focus on a color. And if you're starting fresh and you want to add a new color, it's just clicking this plus sign here and you can start fresh. So if you know your hex code, you can enter that. Your color code, we can talk about what that is, and obviously the color name. And then color map and bump map, these are more advanced settings relating to things like shingles and vinyl siding, depending on if they have a texture on them. So, and then last here, what system is that color part of? So when I look at these colors here, and if we just say that these top metal colors here are the colors that you're going to be using, we just use this for example. So anything maybe down to this first frost. So this is your group of colors, for example. So we could delete all the other colors that you don't need and won't be using, and then just focus on that. So I always recommend, deleting out colors that don't apply to your company. So the next thing is, if we are using the colors that are here, when we look at the color black, so maybe the name is a little bit different, you're welcome to change that. Maybe the color code is a little bit different. Now the color code, keep in mind, this is what your part number system may be using to identify a certain color from all the other colors within a product. So when I'm in a job and I look at my job review, and like a sheeting part, it's very common in the industry for a sheeting part to have a SKU and then it ends with a color code, or the color code is somewhere within that. So the BW, which would be bright white, and that is my color code. So when I look at trim, very similar. I have some white trim in this job. So it starts out with the IB and then the WH as in white, and that's the color code for white. So if you have a part number system like this, or if you choose to use our generic database and stick with our part numbers that we give you, that's how these are set up, so that you can identify the part and the color within the SKU or the part number. So back to the setup wizard here. Looking at the color code, you're welcome to change that if yours is different. And again, it's usually easier just to adopt these than starting fresh. So I showed earlier how you can add new colors, but again, you may not know that hex code. And again, or your hex code may be a bit different. So if you have the hex codes for your colors, you're welcome to input these here. Now, one thing to note when it comes to the hex codes, if you open a job up and it doesn't look according to, depending on the lighting and the way our lighting settings are in the 3D model, it may appear a little bit different. So if you come into a 3D model and you don't like the way the color looks, you can go back into your setup wizard and adjust that hex code, maybe make it a little bit darker. And then we also have a colors menu to dial that in a little bit better. So we'll look at that. We'll look at that also here at the end. So we have our colors here, and we're just saying for a second that this is the only colors you need, and we get rid of all the others. So when we're doing this, the last part of setting up these colors is, well, what system are they in? So in the previous session, we identified our systems. So when I'm talking about my number one metal, most likely that's going to be my ag panel that I just set up. Maybe yours has a different name, whatever that may be, but it's going to be very similar, working the same way. So I add ag panel as a system. So black is not a color for drywall. It may be for standing seam. And then obviously black is not a color for shingle. It could be, most likely it's going to be set up a little bit differently, and we'll look at a shingle color here next. So we have these two systems that this color exists in. So to give you a preview of what that does and why that's important. So if we jump ahead just a second, we're not going to get into sheeting very much here, but when we jump ahead into sheeting and talk about, if you're setting up your panels in the next step, if you have these systems set up and predefined, then when you create your sheeting parts and you put them into that system, so we add the ag panel to that ag panel system. Now, as soon as I toggle colors on, it automatically turns on all the colors that are in that system. So if we take a step back now and look at this color, keep in mind black is the only one that I set up yet with a system. So this automates your sheeting processes and your trim processes by identifying, what colors are part of this system. So it's very important to work through this in this order, where you identify your system first, and then we talk about what your colors are and what systems they are in. And then as we move into sheeting, when you turn those colors on for that product and you say, yes, we sell this certain panel in 30 colors, as soon as you turn those colors on, it already knows what colors to populate based off the systems. If you don't have any system selected here, it just populates all the colors, and it has shingles and everything and all the colors I have there. So it doesn't work very well, and it's hard to sort out. So as soon as I identify, yes, it's my number one ag panel, and as soon as I turn on colors, now it only populates that common color. So that's kind of getting ahead, but back to the colors. So we've set up a metal color, and if you notice, we don't need a color map and we don't need a bump map. Those will be coming through on the product. So that's in the panel setup, and again, we'll have a panel setup video later, but this will be, we're just focusing on the color itself and how it gets applied to trim and sheeting. So if we skip on ahead and you say, okay, yeah, I understand how to do all my metal colors now, what about getting into textured colors? So those are a little bit more complex, where we're actually using one of our predefined color maps that we put in for you. So with this color map, you're welcome to add your own color maps. It's a little bit more advanced and tougher to do, but we do have some training on that. But we will add any of the industry textured colors for you if you just let us know that we're missing some. So we have Axle, we have Central States, we have most of those in here. So the black frost, it has a color map to it. So it looks a little bit different in the model. If I would apply a frost and I would zoom in and look, it would look a little bit different than just the standard red here. So frost is different, as in it actually has a color map tied to it. Everything else kind of works the same way. If you put it part of that number one system, then you can go ahead and it would populate when you turn the colors on for those products. So skipping on ahead to, we will talk about some other system colors. So maybe something like vinyl. Vinyl, pretty straightforward, same as your other colors. It doesn't have a color map. It doesn't have a bump map in this case. It just has a name. I'm using Provia brand as an example. I actually pulled their hex code, so I'm using their exact hex codes for their brand color. And then I would have a vinyl system here and then add it to that system. So moving on ahead to asphalt shingles, maybe you only sell Owens Corning. We could delete the other colors here. We don't need to be looking at them, and we start here. So we would take the Owens Corning and we would add them to the asphalt shingle system. And if you notice, there's been a color map predefined. So again, there's a process that you can add your own color maps, but we've done this for you just to speed up this process. So again, it's that easy to add colors to your systems, and then that streamlines the process when you get into your sheeting parts in our next session. When we get into actual sheeting parts and you turn those colors on and populate the colors, it automatically knows, instead of populating all the colors that you had, it knows, since it's part of this system, it knows what colors to populate. So that's very important to understand. But getting back to the colors, wrapping up the color part. So we have metal colors. We can set up textured. It may be vinyl colors. It may be shingles. And again, if you need this list, this predefined list, we can email it to you and you can simply upload it. Now, if we look at this file here and see what this looks like, we'll take a look at this Excel file here and see what it would involve if we were editing this file in Excel. So it is possible that you can work on your colors in Excel. They do have an ID that Smartbuild defines them when you first upload them, so this number doesn't mean that much. It's more of an internal number. But the color name here and the hex code could be uploaded, and the color code. And then this here could be empty, or maybe there's a bump map like I have my frost. I have a color map for these, and I have systems defined. So this systems, if you go back to your systems menu and you're not sure, that key is what is getting uploaded there. So if we pop this back up here and look at colors, notice it is putting the keys in here, and that's the format you would need to upload. So it's if you want to figure out how to do this in Excel and what the file needs to look like, you can do what I did and take black and just manually fill out one color in here before you download it, so you can kind of see what the columns all need to look like. So in this case, you can see that it filled in the system for me, and then on these you can see it filled in the color map. And these color maps, they all have a code, and they're getting pulled from our database. So you really wouldn't know what these are. You would have no way of knowing these, but that's kind of why we predefine them for you. So on the admin side and on our side, we have a texture library that we give you to use. So these color maps for the colors that are actually pulling in an image to produce the color in the model, similar to shingles or frost, then it's actually using our predefined color maps that we have in here. And if you want to scan down through here, you can see all the different brands. And again, if there's ever a brand that you have, reach out to support and we can try to put that brand in for you if it's not been done.
And in wrap up, we wanted to look at one last topic here, and that is the color control. So if you want to go to settings and colors, now this is if you go into a job and you've got your colors all set up and you're not happy with the way that color is represented in the job, or it looks a little bit off. So you could come into here. An example would be if you think your black looks maybe where it's not dark enough with the lighting in the 3D model, you could come into here and click edit. And so here is a kind of a master control for the color. So when you click on the color itself, it opens up where you can kind of change what that color looks like, which in turn changes the hex code. So if you make changes here, it will change the hex code. But yeah, you can use that to adjust what the color actually looks like in the model. And then when you're done, you just save it, and it takes you back to the home menu.
So yes, back to the model. Yes, when we get done setting up all your colors, you should be able to have stone, siding, shingle roof, different panels. Even though we know the primary focus is generally metal, and that's what we want to excel in. So yes, if you have any other questions, reach out to support on the files if you need any of these files. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next session.